All right, well, welcome back to another interview with Come With Casey. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Casey Sanders.
And I'm Carrie Sanders.
And we've got a great episode coming in for you today because we are talking all things Shibari. If you've been watching the show, you know that we've done one episode on Shibari already.
Yes.
Well, it was more around like the philosophy behind it, more about like the really ethereal topics, spirituality involved in it. But today we want to get into more of the technical aspects of it. So we are joined today by Jake here, who is going to give us a really good breakdown, walk us through some stuff, maybe even show us some of the things that you can do at home that can be some fun with your partner. So anyway, Jake, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, super duper excited to be here.
Yeah.
Like I said, my name's Jake. I've been practicing Shibari for we're creeping up on 3 years. I started kind of experimenting with rope bondage at least I want to say like 6 or 7 years ago, and it just didn't work for that relationship that I was in. And then as that transitioned, I kind of got back to leaning into the freaky Boy Scout side of things. and got back into it. So yeah, I started out doing stuff for my friend who's a boudoir photographer
Okay.
here locally, and I hit her up one day and I was like, "Hey, would you be interested in adding like ropes to your photo sessions?" And she said, literally yesterday, I tried tying somebody up and I think we both almost died. So yeah, she's like, actually, I would love your help, and so that's kind of how it all started. And now I'm doing shoots and events and private sessions and all sorts of fun stuff.
So you've really gone all into this thing then.
I kind of have to for my own personality.
Yeah.
If something is super interesting to me, it's like this, just like a feral focus.
I know
that I
exactly
get
what
into
you
things.
mean.
Yes,
Yeah.
he does. He does the same damn thing.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So
Yeah.
you've like dove into this thing. So what was that? Actually, that brings up a good question. What was that first working with this boudoir photographer coming through, and just what was that experience like for you personally?
I really like the ease of photo shoots because it's a much different energy.
Yeah.
Because really, it's everyone's primary focus is less about the feeling internally of a session and more about the outcome of like looking delicious.
Okay, so it's all about the aesthetic in that state.
Yeah, and I have this tendency to fuck around really hard, so when I'm nervous, I get funnier. And and so then it's just like we're cracking jokes, we're laughing, we're having a good time, and then it's like boom, smolder, shot, and then it's like you can't really move a whole lot depending on how much you're tied up as well.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of us just like kind of moving around the model,
Yeah.
and then yeah, just kind of fucking around the whole time, and it's super chill, it's super fun. I get to hang out with gorgeous people in their underwear. Like my life is
Who
amazing.
wouldn't want that?
So how long is a session roughly?
It just depends, it's like how long is a piece of string.
Yeah.
It
As long as you make it.
yeah, it really depends on what's needed for that day. And then sometimes if we're shooting with a homie, they do their own like hair and makeup, and they'll
Yeah.
bring their own wardrobe. And then if it's like a full client, they get hair and makeup before, and then have access to like my friend Becca, she's the photographer. Paper Tiger Photography, shameless
There it
plug
is.
there.
Love the plug.
Yeah, she's amazing. And she has like an entire client closet that's like
Okay.
size and gender inclusive. And so it's just like this big old process. And then I come in generally after an interview process before the shoot, and then just figure out kind of what we're going to do for each session individually.
So do y'all start with these sessions? Is it something where you start off where it's like simple to complex, like you start off with a simple tie and then make it more intricate, more complex as you go throughout the shoot?
Yeah, because with the shoot and the angles, you could hide all like the extra rope. So I could do like, let's say something takes 10 steps, but at step 3, it's already looking good. We could kind of pause and like linger there for a moment and get some photos.
Okay.
And then I could just like curl up and tie a bow and all of the extra rope and hide it behind their body, or we could move it out of the frame and things like that. So that's where a lot of the ease comes from with the photos.
So do y'all like collaborate ideas? Because I'm on your page right now, which is GEDO_NAWA. And there's one where there's a girl that's tied up with a bar behind her with a lampshade.
Oh, the lampshade. Yeah.
Let me see this.
It is
Yeah.
the most. I want this on a poster in my room. It is the most beautiful imagery.
Please send us a print of this. We'll put it right here.
I'm completely obsessed with this, and so I'm curious. Do y'all come together and sit and hey, I want to throw a lampshade on this head with their arms tied back with So do y'all collaborate these ideas?
Yeah. I'll collaborate with I'll kind of talk with Becca, the photographer, first, and see hey, what's the goal here? Is it soft spice or steamy or intimate, or are we doing extra caliente, or is there going to be suspension involved? Because she has hard points set up in her studio too.
Okay.
So I have the option to bring my whole setup and do suspension. And it's gonna be what's your goal for the shoot? And then I talk with the person being tied and figure out how are we going to reach or edit the photographer's goals while keeping in mind the person that's being tied, and making sure that they are safe and comfortable. And if they want to push out of their comfort zone, then that's up to them. It's not us pushing them. It's us helping guide them out of their comfort zone to step into something more powerful, instead of being fish hooking somebody and be all right, bitch, here we go.
You're doing this.
Yeah, that's super duper not the move there.
No.
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so 2 points real quick. One, for anybody just listening that went, what the fuck is a hard point?
Oh yeah.
We understand that is going to be a point put onto a wall or a beam or something. It's an area where you can anchor down your rope, correct?
Yes. So it's generally something above you. If you have a vertical pillar, it's called a hashira, which just means pillar in Japanese, and you could tie to that. But generally, hard points when referred to are something in the ceiling or above you. Could be an external frame, could be mounted into your ceiling directly, could be a climbing strap around an old growth branch, or underneath a bridge, or we have this really massive radio flyer wagon in Spokane, Washington, and it's got a slide and monkey bars underneath it. And I've suspended somebody underneath the wagon before in a park. It's the only time I've gotten the cops called on me for Shibari.
I was going to say.
For Shibari. I heard you say for Shibari.
Yes. Actually, I guess ever. Yeah, no, I guess that was the only time ever. So I had to think about that. Not getting caught is not the same as getting in trouble. So
that's fair. That is very fair. So I kind of want to go back. So how did you learn all of this?
So I actually learned online. I'm sure yourself and a lot of listeners can empathize with the difficulty of finding a scene in your area.
Yes.
Then let's say you do find a scene. Do you align with that scene,
people,
or do they fucking creep you out?
Yes.
So
100%.
Lately, I've been getting into a community now, which is amazing, and I'm super fortunate. But just the same with good quality organic food, you can't get that in all parts of the country. So it's you might not be able to find a nice community or somebody to learn from that is a safe person, as well as being knowledgeable enough to teach you what you want to know.
Yeah.
So I went through Shibari Study. It's just shibaristudy.com. It's totally worth it. There's more than six, less than 700 videos on there right now. And it's tying in all body types, masculine, feminine bodies. It covers so much that it's amazing, from the basics all the way up to into some really intense, spicy shit.
See, and that's so cool, because that's how I've learned some of my basic ties, just been on videos on YouTube. But to have a resource that is, from what I think I heard you say at some point, is that it's behind a paywall, correct? They have free safety videos, and then they have a paywall for more of the in-depth stuff, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone should check it out if they're interested, because there are the medial, the radial, and the ulnar nerves in your arms. And so you want to make sure that you're not giving somebody nerve damage, just trying to be spicy for a night, because that would be catastrophic. And there's just a lot of other things about videos for bottoming rope, videos for tying and safety, and just you could also watch sessions, which I think is really cool. So that's great. yeah, like they're not telling you how they're doing anything, but you get to watch them go through and see what start to finish looks like, which is really missing a lot. People will see these photos of this like amazing shit and they'll be like, well, I want to do that. And you don't know how long that person was in the ropes for when that
Yeah.
photo was taken. Like that
Mhm.
moment is stretched into infinity, but they might have only been in that position for a couple seconds to take a photo and then right back out of it.
Yeah.
So,
See, and that I love that because that's such an important thing to look at in terms of safety. Because we are getting into something that is you're binding a person in these
hmm
positions that are going to do things like have the potential to cut off blood flow, to create
hmm
nerve damage, to create soft tissue damage. And if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you can really hurt somebody. So
hmm
to make the sense of that, of to say, hey, if there's a photo out there and you see somebody in this intricate suspended tie where they have like their legs purple almost, and
hmm
you're seeing these things, the fact of the matter is they may not be in these positions for very long at all.
hmm
And if you do that and you try to recreate it and you try to extend it out a lot, you could really hurt somebody doing this.
Absolutely. So it's like finding out what your preferred risk profile is, like my own personally, and then seeing how that aligns with the person bottoming the rope,
Hmm.
and then see where we're gonna play. It's like I have my goalpost, they have their goalpost, and like this
Yeah.
is our field to play, and we don't want to go out of bounds in something like this.
Yeah, so that communication beforehand of being like, what is this scene going to look like what's your
Absolutely.
yeses and your no's, what are my yeses and no's, and where can we come
hmm
together to create almost like a team effort to make sure we're both gaining.
Absolutely. And I feel like definitely recently from hearing these stories, like it's a lot more bottom focused
Hmm.
now, more than it has been historically, where it was just like, hey, you need to do this or you're not a good rope bottom,
Hmm.
kind of. And that's bullshit. So it's
Yeah.
like people of all different body types, different genders, different flexibility levels. That's the great part about rope and learning Shibari is I feel it's primarily principle driven, and then
Okay.
you have to figure out what works on the body.
Mm.
And that's what, man, I love that shit. You could tie rope onto other rope if you run out. There's ways to kind of burn rope if you get done with your tie and you still have half the rope left. What can you do that is safe and aesthetic if aesthetics are important for you
Yeah.
Yeah.
and all of those things. But the rope is so adaptive that telling yourself or like when I hear people be like, I don't really think it's for me. I'm like, well, why do you think that? Let's unpack that. Let's break that down because it's probably bullshit.
Well, so then let's do this. Let's take a quick shift because through all of this stuff that we're talking about so far, we're hearing a lot of terms, right? We're hearing top, we're hearing bottom, we're hearing that. So it would be our teacher for just a quick
Oh
second.
yeah,
So you can
absolutely.
have some of our listeners become more acquainted with some of the terminology around ropes and around the people involved in it, so they can feel as if the discussion is
Yeah.
is really connecting for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the times you'll hear the term like rope bunny for
Hmm.
the person bottoming the rope. So the bottom is going to be the person being tied, and the top is going to be the person tying. So just kind of like top and bottom lets you know
Okay.
the
Yeah, for
roles.
sure.
So it's equivalent, or like I guess not equivalent, but similar to like the dom and sub
Yeah.
aspects of things.
Hmm.
But also like they're telling me what they want done to them. I don't feel like a dom in this situation.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing what they're telling me to
Y-
do. Wait a minute, this is
yeah,
backwards.
so it's like, okay, power bottom? You're like, I don't know.
Yes.
You're like, that's kind of weird. So
Topping
I
from
just
the
like,
bottom.
yeah, this fucking backseat drivers.
Yep.
And so with that, I just prefer top and bottom. It's
Okay.
just it's easier, it's not gendered, and it just kind
Hmm.
of like describes really quickly like who's being tied. Because not everybody identifies with the bunny.
Yeah.
It's like I have my friend my friend Brian, he's like this big tough black dude, and it's like he wants to bottom rope, but he's just like, I ain't a fucking rope bunny, dude. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, no, no Peter Cottontail vibes here. So that's why I just kind of gravitate towards
Yeah.
top and bottom, or there's like rigger, is
Hmm.
generally the term for the person tying the ropes
Okay.
too. I think did I miss any terms that I've
I don't
dropped
know. I think
No, is
since then?
in terms of basics,
yeah.
I think that
Cool.
covers enough for someone that's listening outside of the conversation who go, oh, okay, now I know what that means.
Yeah.
So then what kind of ropes do you like to use? Because I've
Ooh,
seen
good
so many
question.
different
Yeah.
kinds.
I know we have
So,
I
right
got like this like
there.
silky long black
mhm,
one, and I guess
yeah,
that's okay, but yeah, what do
it's
you like?
yeah, this is purely for you guys and for the listeners, watchers. This is purely my own personal things that I come to enjoy. So I like a jute rope because it's a natural fiber,
Mm-hmm.
and because it is natural, like I could take it here, and if I squeeze it really hard and I pull the rope through my hand, it doesn't burn.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't create a lot of friction, which means if I'm pulling this rope underneath a wrap that's really close to your body, I'm not going to burn you as well. As you can see
I kind
here,
of wondered about that because I see it pull through, and I'm like, does
yeah,
that not like burn their skin?
yeah. So typically, like if you get a rope burn out in the wild or you're doing something like that, it's because it's a synthetic rope,
Okay.
which has the potential to just generate a lot more friction and a lot more
Yeah.
heat, where like a natural fiber like jute um, just doesn't. And I like that a lot. It kind of looks and almost like feels rough at first, and then it's actually pretty soft on the body. So I
Yeah.
like that a lot. Some people will fray their ends and sew them. I like my ends tied in a knot like that, so I could easily with just a quick little slip knot, and I could kind of show you for
Yeah.
the listeners, not the watchers. I'm just making a loop in the rope, and you could pass the loop over the knots at the end, and
And
then
now, boom, tied together.
yeah. And so if you like run out of rope and you get to the literal end of your rope,
Mm-hmm.
then you can just grab another piece and continue the party. So that's how I kind of tell people if maybe they're a little bit larger and they're just like, how are you going to get all the way around my body with that, or how are you going to do your things? And I was like, hey, that's my job. That's not your job. Like, your job is to tell me how you're feeling and what's coming up for you, and if you want me to put a little more pepper on it, or if you want to dial it back a little bit.
Okay.
So then, where do you get your ropes from?
Other
You can't
shameless
Yeah, I was gonna say,
shameless
because you can't
plug.
just like go and get them. They're just everywhere.
Yeah, I like a clean rope company on
Okay.
Etsy. They get their rope. It's like a raw jute. So it's before it has any
Mm-hmm.
oils put on it, so it just feels better on the skin. I do use a synthetic rope, which looks pretty similar
Yeah.
to the jute. This one's like bright red though, and the synthetic rope I use for my uplines. So the uplines, now back into the terms, is
Right.
something I would tie to the harness, and then the upline would go up to the hard point that we talked about
Okay.
earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so because this synthetic rope, like I could tow a car with,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about my uplines breaking at all. Like I
Okay.
tie off of a piece of bamboo, and I have this type of rope. It's called Posh, and I have this type of rope like from the bamboo to my hard points.
Okay, so whenever you're tying someone up and doing like a suspension kind of thing, then you have a harness on them that you've created
Hmm.
using your rope, and then you're
Yeah.
tying that synthetic rope to that harness, and
Hmm.
so you can suspend them.
Yeah, because Posh will generate heat for sure. And
Okay,
I don't know any masochistic subs out there that think blisters are hot. So it's just like if you do, that's awesome.
maybe
You're
burns, maybe
terrifying.
bruises, maybe,
Yeah, right.
but not
Yeah,
necessarily blisters.
yeah. I was like, you're scary. Lose my number. And but yeah. So I don't like tying Posh onto the body. But I
Okay.
will tie Posh to the jute, and then use that for my uplines.
Okay, yeah, it seems like a lot of what we see on some of the Shibari pages that we follow, that using the more natural fiber rope is pretty popular, or at least like I see ropes that look almost identical to what you have on a lot of people being tied up.
Yeah, and it is like traditional. So like the aesthetic nerd part of me is just like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, bueno. If you like if you like brightly colored ropes, then getting into like a nylon rope
Mm-hmm.
can be an option for you. It's tends to be a little bit thicker. The rope I use is in between 5.5 to 6 millimeters, and that just works for me aesthetically.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't work for you, you're right. So
Right.
Yeah.
you could experiment with nylon. I think it kind of stretches just a little bit also, which I don't like. I like my ropes to not stretch at all. So then if I put a friction or a knot or something in a certain place, if I know I'm going to pull on it, I want that to stay where I left it. I don't
Yeah.
want the harness to kind of collapse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
So I'll kind of jump around a little bit, but then how do you go about finding people? Like, how do you have like an interviewing process? Because this seems pretty intimate, and you're not just going to like pull someone off the street and be like, let's tie you up. Like, I imagine there has to be.
Not. I like to put it out there that I'm looking for people. Mm-hmm. I very much fish with a net. I'm not a hunter. I think it's weird for me, a very not small man, to approach generally a female and be like, hey, can I remove your physical capacity to defend yourself in any situation for fun? You know? Yeah. And then, so I'll have a lot of interviews and stuff when I'm like, oh, do you have any questions for me? And they're like, no. I'm like, why the fuck not?
Like, you need to have questions for me.
Yeah, like, I could literally kill you and there's nothing that you can do. Like, I'm not going to. But it's just like, you know, I think men are like the leading cause of death for women. So I'm just like, why am I carrying all the nerves for this group? Yeah. I feel like you should also have questions for me. Working with my photographer, Becca, has given me a lot of street cred because she really pushes that like safety and consent and just like all of those things. So I know working with her has been huge. And then I just have an interview process and figure out, you know, what people want.
Yeah.
It's pretty common for like your alpha female boss lady type to want to then switch and give up all control. You know, maybe she's a mom and she's running a business, or she is in a manager position and she's babysitting adults all day. And then when she comes to hang out with me, she's like, I want you to take everything away and I just want to go inward and focus on my body. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's figure that out. And then sometimes I'll have people that come in and they want they want content for like OnlyFans.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, bring your whole closet, you know, have an attached bathroom so you can change as many times as you need to. Like, I don't really care. And then we'll just focus on getting in photos, you know? So I had a friend show up. She was like cosplayed like Velma, and I could change the light colors in my room. So we did like green lights from the bathroom and purple lights above. And then I took her glasses off and like put them out of reach, you know? And we like,
oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, you know? So it's like, so that was our goal. And we're just kind of fucking around and having fun the whole time, versus like, do I need to hold space for somebody to like drop into subspace and kind of like almost like caretake their body as they step away for a moment. So for the listeners, if you're not familiar, subspace is when like you're in a scene and your body's releasing a lot of these like natural like endogenous chemicals, a lot of like oxytocin, but adrenaline and like all these like your uppers and downers kind of at the same time. And I heard through the grapevine you're going to have a rope bottom on the podcast here soon, so I'll let them talk about it, because I've actually never really experienced that. I've experienced like the top kind of energy of that, or like the sometimes they'll call it like sub drop and dom drop, and these are all like, I think, conversations for other people that are more versed in that. But it's still like the energy exchange there. So do I need to be worried about that, where it's like I'm tying over yoga clothes or like their ex-boyfriend's XXL t-shirt when they're a tiny person, you know? Is it more for their comfort? Is it more for photos? Is it for this? And so having an interview process to really break all that down is super important.
I love that.
And so then what about like afterward? Is it like you untie and pat them on the butt and send them out? Like, how does that work?
Well, let's see. For the last time, because what Carrie's referring to is called aftercare.
Yes. Thank
so after a scene, if you will, a session, how to take care of that person and how to support them on like their journey back to the body. So with that, it's individual for each person. You know, I've made people into like a little burrito with a blanket, and like done that. I've like almost like like Ghost when they're both making the pottery, you know, like gone up like behind I've gone up like behind somebody and just like squeezed him with my hands instead of with the rope. I just made herbal ginger tea for a lady I tied up last time, because I was like, what's your aftercare like? What are you looking for? She's like, I just want to talk about the session. I want to have a conversation, and I would like some herbal tea.
Okay.
And so I was like, I could figure that out. I'm a terror in the kitchen, you know, so.
Well, that's good. And, you know, we talk about aftercare a lot in terms of with a lot of our couples that we take care of with a lot of people is the importance of aftercare. So to see it translated in such a way with something as intense as Shibari can be is really, really refreshing to see, especially for somebody with such an expertise such as yourself to do something like that.
Yeah, it's so interesting too, because like I understand why you would want aftercare through this experience, especially it being as deep as it can be. But I just never thought about it. Like, I understand like BDSM and like impact play and like aftercare. Totally get it. And then I remember us talking about it the last time or having this conversation. I was like, oh shit, that actually makes so much sense, because like you said, it's like it's bringing them back, but it's also like recharging, reconnecting. And then I imagine the bond you have with these people, it's probably pretty special to be able to be the person, to be the rigger to this individual. Like you said, maybe it is a CEO woman that just wants to calm the fuck down for a minute. Like you get to offer that, and that's really special. That's really, really cool.
It is pretty wild, the feedback I get from some people. And on my Instagram, I have a highlight for like reviews, and that is also what kind of makes people not ask a bunch of questions to work with me, so it's like I'm slowly getting less weird about people being less and less concerned, because I have a pretty good track record so far.
Yeah, you're not you're not exactly out there just having a basic interaction with a person. This is very deep and very soulful. So those nice positive reviews, I'm sure, allow for that ability, for that trust, and allow people to be a little bit more vulnerable with you.
And I think too, like, I'm not anti-dungeon, but it's like, it's not for me. It's not it's not the look, it's not the vibe that I'm going for. So I have like natural fiber ropes and like bamboo. So it's like earthy, warm tones.
Yeah.
It's not like this dark like chrome and like black leather and chrome and latex and that's it. And I was like, that's super cool. It's just not my thing. I think I'm way too hairy for latex.
Fairy wings, if you want to tie me into massive fairy wings.
Yeah. Ooh, absolutely. I mean, I've worked around a lot of things before, or like you said earlier, with like the lampshade and the bamboo and stuff, and just turned people into furniture, made them feel like fairy princesses. It's whatever's needed.
We've got a good park by our house. We'll bring you down here.
Yay.
Go to the park at like dusk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do like a Shibari fairy shoot.
That'd be so cool.
So down. My photographer wants to travel, so I can connect you guys. She's fucking amazing.
That'd be so cool. So my next kind of question that I have, and I swear to God, I just had a brain fart. What the fuck? Hold on.
Oh, get it back. Get your shit together.
I was like, no, I like
Take
just
your time.
had. Oh, mother. Okay, no, it's totally good. So I'm just gonna go to another one until I get back to that.
Deal.
Oh, I got it back. Okay, I'm
Yay!
here.
I knew you would.
What we were talking about is like so far outside of the realm of what couples can do. So let's bring it to couples a little bit, and kind of talk about ways that you can introduce us into the bedroom when you are not as well versed as you are.
Ooh, player 3 has entered the game.
Yes.
All right. So, so with that, most people wear shoes, which means you have shoelaces. And if you have shoelaces, you probably know how to tie your shoes. So that's all you need for bondage.
Super simple.
Yeah, like if you're going for like a couple and you're just starting out and you're like, maybe you go to like a sex shop and you look at all this different rope and there's like a fucking horse stick dildo over there and like the lights are fluorescent, maybe it's a little overwhelming and you're just like, fuck this, we're going home, but you still want to have fun. Then you can take your shoelaces off of your shoes. You could take your partner's thumbs and put their thumbs together, and you could just tie their thumbs together the same way you would tying your shoes. But that leaves you with one shoelace. You can take your other shoelace and tie their big toes together. And then to make the psychological weight of the bondage a lot heavier, you could blindfold them. So they still have all of this movement, but they are essentially not going anywhere. So it could be to that effect. Another example, let's say like you do buy some rope, you could take like the end of a knotted rope right here, and what I'm holding up for the listeners is just the rope with the knot at the end. And you could put this rope in between their big toe and their first toe. And then you could just wrap around them in a spiral all the way up their body, and you could hand them the other end. You could have it in their mouth, or if their arms are in front of their body, then you could have them hold the other end, You'd be like, hey, if you lose either ends of these ropes, the scene is over.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, hey, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna do some things, but like now you have to hold on to this. So all you have is a rope and a conversation and zero technical skill. So like it doesn't have, I'm really aesthetically driven. I've been a tattoo artist for like over a decade, so putting lines on the body is something I'm a big fan of, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to have it look a certain way. That is a super duper not necessary for anyone else unless you feel like it.
Yeah.
So ditching the comparison to others is going to be the biggest thing, and just focusing on that connection with your partner that's in a really safe way. You mentioned learning some knots on YouTube. YouTube is really good to get you barely started.
Yeah.
But like I'm sure you probably found the end of that really quick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
So then from there, with a single column and like your double column ties, a single column is just a closed loop. And that's where it gets kind of confusing, is that like you could put as many columns as you want into a single column tie. So you could do a single column tie around an ankle and the leg of a chair, and still a single column tie, even though you stuff two things in there. If you had enough rope, I could go around 6 different people and tie a single column tie, and it's still a single column tie.
Single column tie. Okay.
So you could learn this uncollapsible knot, which means like you tie the loop and you make like your cuff essentially. And the goal being is when you pull on it, the cuff stays the same shape. So your rope shouldn't constrict with that. So once you learn that knot, I mean, use your imagination. You could do a single column tie from your right hand to your left ankle. And now they're twisted and kind of bound up. And then a double column tie is something that cannot spin around, and it's just 2 loops that are kind of closed in the middle. And that's also a little misleading as well, because then it's like I could do a double column tie where on one side is like your one arm and your torso, and on the other side is your other arm.
Yeah.
So one small loop and one really big loop on the other side.
Okay.
So just learning those two and be like, oh, that's it. And if all you do with those two is tie hands and ankles together, you're leaving a lot on the table as far as like the creativity goes. And so then you could go full James Bond villain, with just those 2 knots, and just strap somebody to a chair. Or depending on like your bed frame and how sturdy it is, things like that. It should always be done safely and to your own kind of risk profile. But just those things to start out for couples is a really good place right there.
Yeah, we had a talk with doing some of these simple knots, like you talk about using the shoelaces. We had the discussion about that could be a fun power dynamic out in public. If you want to do something simple, so like we like to go to local bars and stuff around the area, and I had teased Carrie with being like, how much fun would it be to go out there and I'm just gonna tie your thumbs together while we're out and about.
You said when you're being a brat, I'm gonna tie your hands together.
Well,
and I was like,
you gotta
so I'm just gonna fucking sit there the whole time.
Like I would be like, you get to ask permission to like take a drink, and you get to ask permission to do these kind of things, and I'm just gonna keep you tied up.
But it was cute because then that kind of got us like thinking like we can role play in this sense, like if we are out and about and I'm being a massive brat, like he literally could just fucking. All right, Carrie, and it's such like a fun, like playful way that we can like engage with one another that we had never thought about doing. And like you said, it's so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you already know all the skills, and you already have all the equipment. And so it's like you don't have to step out of your comfort zone just to get started, because you already have everything you need to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So then what are some other things you can do around the house? You had mentioned to us before about you being able to use like household items to tie each other up if you don't have, rope just laying around, or
you only have sandals,
the knowledge and
don't
skill to do it. Like what are some...
Man.
Just saying, there are people.
So assuming, if like most people watching this have a smartphone and internet connection, they probably also have pillowcases. So pillowcases are pretty awesome there. You're not gonna, look at that.
Look at that. We happen to have one right here.
We love a man that's prepared. And Boy Scout motto, baby. And so you can take that. Carrie, if you would be so kind as to model this. You can put your wrists together in front of you. Yeah, and then Casey, you could go over the top of her wrists.
Give me those wrists, girl.
Yay! And then you're gonna take both of the middles, the ends of the rope, and go through the middle of her arms. just like that, and then you could hold on to the ends.
Which means that I can take it.
Yeah.
So
do
yeah,
whatever I want.
yeah. So then for the listeners, Casey has both of Carrie's arms easily controlled with one of his arms.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
the
I can do
bondage
anything
really
with this.
exactly, but that leaves your other hand free for sinning.
100%.
Love it.
So yeah,
I
another
like that
fun.
one.
Yeah, and it's super easy. It could also be done with ankles too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a super quick little loop, and you'd be like, "Hey, I can control these two limbs with one of my limbs in a way that is a lot more powerful than if you were just using your hands alone."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I
And
like
then,
that one. What else you got?
yeah, Carrie, if you could cross your arms behind your back and kind of grab your forearms just below the elbows there, and then Casey, if you could put the pillowcase on over her arms.
Okay. So about like
Yeah, and then bonus
right
points there.
there.
Yeah, get it over the top of her shoulders,
Right
and then
now.
so with that, then and then if
can't
you
do
were
it.
to
So,
lay down on your back, I like the cape. If
I
you,
know she's going for the lay down too.
yeah, so
There
then
we
with
go.
with the lay down, then you're extra helpless. So now it's
Yeah.
So yeah.
your
Okay.
own
So
body weight keeping you captive.
yeah. So now
I
that
like
that
that.
excess pillowcase is now under your butt and on your
Mm-hmm.
back, so she can't really
Hmm.
move anywhere. I like that dynamic.
Exactly.
Maybe I'll just let you stay like that.
No.
So for anybody that actually is listening, this is your opportunity to head over to our YouTube channel to watch this
Yeah.
interview, so you can actually get a visual. How you doing over there, Carrie?
I mean, this is fine.
You just
I
bound.
honestly, I really don't mind it.
Yeah.
I think we're about
And
to end this
so,
interview.
heyo. And then for this, so that is basically like a box tie or a TK, which is called a Tecate Cote. So you could do that without rope, but that's with that same position with like the arms crossed behind your back to kind of make the box shape.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So, real quick, I mean, we've covered a lot and you've been absolutely great.
Hey, thanks.
Are there any like key points for people to hear and be like, don't tie up here yet until you're experienced? Stay out of this zone if you're not experienced yet.
I mean, I think suspension on its own is inherently one of the more dangerous things you can do. So making sure that you have the education on how to do it. Like I practiced
Okay.
all of my uplines with the heaviest kettlebell that I owned.
Okay.
And
okay.
I purposely like took my shoes and socks off while I was doing it. So there was some risk involved for myself. I was like, I'm gonna raise the stakes. I'm gonna take this seriously. I'm gonna treat this. Was it 28 kilos? So was that 62 pounds of iron with the same amount of reverence as I would treat a person. And then if I drop this is either gonna fuck up my foot and or the floor. So that's how I started practicing for like safe suspension. And then just don't see something and try it immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're able to reverse engineer it and kind of unpack it there. The other part is having some sort of safety tool. A lot of people will use safety shears.
Okay.
They're like mass produced and the handles are plastic and they're really shitty. So I don't personally like them. I have this cool little tool from Gerber.
Oh, okay.
And here, and then you just push the little button and pull it out. And it's this super duper sharp hook, but it's dull right here. So I could get this underneath here. And I've had to cut a person out before, and this will just straight liquefy the rope. Like it
Wow.
just
Really?
goes right through, opened her right up. She took a couple deep breaths and came right back.
Yeah.
And yeah, we continued the session after that, and I attribute that to being able to like really get her out.
Yeah.
This is a tool meant for like cutting your seatbelt off if you're trapped in a vehicle.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
like seatbelts are tough as fuck, ropes are less tough. So I would rather have like go into this, like with a tank versus than like having just like a smaller weapon kind of
Yeah,
thing. So
absolutely. So being well prepared is super important anytime
Yeah.
you're engaging in this kind of stuff.
even if you're self-tying, and I think honestly, like especially if you're self-tying, having something close by, because they have like a cool little clip on the back that you could like literally screw this into like a holster. And I mean, I don't know how like Indiana Jones or Laura Croft you want to look when you go to self-tie, but it's a lot better than getting nerve damage that is potentially irreversible.
Yeah. Good. So understand that safety first.
Yep.
Yeah, and then just over communicate with your partner. I I would rather be annoying and check in too much than not check in enough.
Yeah,
you know,
we've talked a million times on our show about how we like to use the light system whenever we're engaging in any sort of kink. That being that, like, we'll check in with each other. Hey, what are you at in terms of color? Is it a green for go? Is it yellow for we need to maybe stay where we're at? Or is it red for stop? Or we even have we use blue. So are you whenever somebody says that, meaning that they are emotionally triggered and we need to immediately engage in some level of aftercare.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. You basically address the issues I have with the 3-color system is because there's only 3 colors.
Yeah.
So yeah. So having the codes like that, I'll check with like my bottoms, hands and feet too, squeezing their pinkies and be like, hey, can you squeeze back? Can you squeeze my hand?
Okay.
Can you? I was like, what finger am I touching right now? Because like with rope, some tingling is, and like even color change is to be expected. But numbness should be avoided at all cost.
Yeah.
So making sure that we're playing and it's spicy and it's amazing, but making sure that it's safe overall through knowledge and communication and safety.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, if someone is interested in being your bottom, how would they go about that? Like, let's relay this information out.
Yeah. So you just slide into them DMs.
Okay.
And then I flagged a little message, so then I could have everybody I could search flagged messages, and so like your shit will pop up because I send a lot of memes, so I don't want people's messages to be buried in the meme stream.
Well, make sure to start sending some of those our way because we do the same. We engage in it all the time.
Oh man, I'll start sending the hot filth your way.
There you go.
But then from there, we just have a conversation, and it's back to my kind of snarky remark about like how long is a piece of string? Like everything is a variable, and we gotta align with, my boundaries are pretty far apart. There's like extremes that I don't like getting into. I'm not typically like a sadist, but if I know that somebody's like really, really masochistic and they can communicate how they would like it to a high level, then I am comfortable stepping into that role.
Okay.
But then it's just kind of, what are you after? Do you want pictures? Do the pictures not matter? Is it all energetics? And I like to have the first part of the conversation over text so I could refer to it leading up to the session. And then generally I'll meet with people, like we'll go to a coffee shop. There's a number of like Christian run coffee shops in the area, and I like to hold my interviews there because the irony is fucking hilarious, and I love it so much. So I will generally suggest one of those places to go, and we'll talk about the varying degrees of
what's your handle?
Handle on IG is Gedo Nawa. It says GEDO_NAWA. So the Gedo refers to the outer path, which is like outside of Buddhism, because everything I do is so hedonic. So I thought that was funny. And then Nawa just means rope in Japanese. So.
And then are you on other sites?
I am. Yeah, I have an OnlyFans. I'll link that into the bio of my. It's just basically like a slightly spicier Instagram for me, so it is free. I'm probably gonna like pop the paywall back up, and I got to rebrand it a little bit because it's the same as my old Instagram that got shut down. So now I'm in the process of like changing everything over to match again.
we do see a lot of people do that, is they'll host their OnlyFans where it'll be essentially the same photos they're putting up on Instagram but uncensored, or it'll be like a little bit of extra shots in there that are a little bit more spicy.
And if you are a photography nerd, like you could post full frame images on OnlyFans without the criminal Instagram crop.
Yeah.
Makes me so fucking mad.
We all hate it.
Yeah, it's just like, you know what, you can still police everything, but like give us a full frame photo. Would you please? Could you? Like, what the fuck, guys?
I know. As being a hairdresser, it drives me insane.
Yeah.
It drives me insane. I'm like, I'm so goddamn
Carrie's
sick
constantly
of this.
loading stuff in, and she's being like, I can't get the fucking hair all in the shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta shoot everything like white as hell, and I'm balling on a budget, so I only got like one lens for my camera, So I'm like, hey, this is what you get. I'm not a photographer, so.
Oh shit. Well,
so,
awesome,
then,
man. Go ahead, please.
I was just saying, I'm I'm on FetLife too, but there's just like a handful of riggers that I follow on there, and that site's kind of trash anyways. So I'm just there to like look at cool people and be inspired. I don't really hang
we
out.
hear that often from a lot of people we interview whenever we discuss on something like FetLife. They're like, you can find me there.
Yeah. Not the best to reach out. Generally, like I roll my eyes every time I see the little message thing pop up. It's like the opposite of when I see a message pop up anywhere else. I'm just like, the fuck is this gonna be? You know.
Awesome. Well, Jake, we appreciate you coming on the show. In fact, I'm sure at some point we would love to be able to invite you on again to talk more shibari, more types of ties, maybe give us some demonstrations even. How cool would it be to have like a video interview where we have a top and a bottom, and it's like, here, I'm going to show this harness that I do, or I'm going to show this tie that I do.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. Or how cool would it be for just, I don't know, I got tied up.
I'm here to support everything.
Yeah, that's the cool part. That's the cool part. There's no metal in the ropes, you know, so I go through TSA real easy. So
there it is. We'll have to come to a tour of your town, see some old friends, and hang out.
Yeah, it's you have some colleagues up here, so that would be awesome. And it's great up here, man. I love it.
Well, we look forward to setting something up, man. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Jake, it's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Guys, if you're listening in on this, you can find everything we just talked about in the show notes down below. Hey. Make sure that you've subscribed to our YouTube channel for Come With KC, our Instagram at Come With KC. As we've said before, shoot us questions, shoot us messages. If you want to get in touch with Jake, you have his information, or reach out to one of us, and we'll get you. We'll be happy to make the connection as well. So
DMs are open.
There it is. So for another episode of Come With KC, I'm Dr. Casey Sanders,
and I'm Carrie Sanders.
All right.
Bye.